Sorry about that. I can only record so long in each YouTube video before it cuts me off. So we left off on this correlational slide. And when you're talking about correlations, again, you're not talking about causation. You're talking about the association between two variables and your different types of variables. And what you look for is they usually run some sort of scatter plot. So if you see it's the scatter plot, and what each of these dots is, it's a the variables are on either axis, and where they intersect, that's a study, that's an individual, that's a subject. So a positive correlation moving in this direction, a negative correlation in this direction, and no correlation where you can't really find a line. Okay, you can kind of draw a line through these data points. You don't really have that. Okay, maybe you could consider it slightly positive, but absolutely not. There's no significance. There's no statistical significance, and certainly nothing that you would report. So when you talk about correlations, you're going to see that. And just like power and effect size and everything else, when you look at correlations, you want it to be as close to 1 as possible. So anywhere between that 0.7 or higher is considered a strong correlation or a good correlation. And some textbooks will vary on those values. Some want 0.85 or higher. Some will go down as 0.6. Again, it sort of is, you need to make a decision as a clinician, as a consumer, on where your cutoff is going to be and what you think is applicable for your correlations. Now, similar to correlations are your regressions. And what a regression is, it's the change in one variable predicting the change in another variable. So a simple regression is changing the predictor variable, changes the level of the outcome variable. With a multiple regression, change in the combination of 2 or more change the outcome variable. And you can theoretically, just like a t-test and an ANOVA, you can run, if you have a lot of factors, you can keep running all of these t-tests, like hundreds and hundreds of t-tests, or you can put them all together and run the ANOVA. Same idea here. You can run tons of simple regressions looking at all the factors, or you can put them all together and run a multiple regression. And that's the beauty of these statistical tests, and the power of these statistical tests is that you can put all this data in there and run these things. And that's why SPSS is so great, because you just have to plug and chug, and SPSS spits out all this nice information for you. So if you're taking any more statistical courses, you're going to get used to putting in all that kind of data. And a regression with a regression line looks very similar to scatter plot, but it's the same idea because one variable is now predicting the other variable. All right, so now that we have a basic idea of this, let's see if we can apply some of this vocabulary, nomenclature, etc., into a relational study and see what we can come up with. All right, so I'm back to my compression stockings article, and I'm back at the statistical analysis section of it. And let's see if we can kind of break this down and understand why they're using the statistical analysis that they're using. So I'm right here in statistical analysis. Data collected for all measured variables were compared using one-way or two-way repeated measures, ANOVA. All right, so immediately I know one-way ANOVA, I'm looking at differences between 2 or more groups. Okay, actually 3 or more groups, like I mentioned before. So we got to figure out, we have 3 or more groups being used. And a one-way means we're only looking at one factor, and a two-way means we're looking at 2 factors. All right. So when we get to the one-way ANOVA, we now know what we're looking for. Okay. And you see they ran some of these are these specialty tests. I have no idea what they are. That's okay. I'm going to go back to where we feel comfortable. When differences were identified, paired t-test. Well, we already know what a paired t-test is. That is looking for differences between 2 related variables. So we should already have a really good idea of what we're looking for. There's effect sizes, so we're looking for the practical application of this data. And you can see they defined it for us. So they said 2 is small, 0.5 is medium, and there's 0.8. I said 0.7, they want a 0.8, but at least they defined it for you so you know what they are considering a strong or a high effect size. And there is our Pearson correlation. Oh, excuse me. So Pearson correlation listed right here. And as you know, that means we're looking for continuous variables. So the relationship or the association between 2 continuous variables, and they set their P a priori, meaning before they did their study, at 0.05. Again, that means they're 95% confident that they're not going to have an error, and they're willing to have an error 5% of the time. All right, so let's look through the statistics and the results and actually see what they found. So no differences between interventions for the 10-kilometer performance time. All right, and here are their multiple groups. So you want to know why they run an ANOVA? Because they have a control group, a low group, a median group, and a high group. All right, so those are your groups that you have to run an ANOVA. You could run, again, a whole bunch of t-tests, but again, way too time consuming, not needed to be done. Their P was 0.99. Well, they already established it at 0.05, so obviously it should be less than 0.05. 0.99 is higher than 0.05, therefore no statistical significance. And their Cohen's d, which is their effect size, it's less than 0.1. Well, they already defined their effect size as 0.2 is considered small. So this is less than small. So I guess very small. They're two-way ANOVA. So again, multiple groups, which you already know about, the control, medium, high, and low. Those are your groups. And a two-way means we're looking at two factors. So let's go up here. They said the two-way ANOVA revealed no main effects on treatment or time. So there's your two factors. Treatment, time are our two factors, and we already know here are our three groups. So that's why they ran a two-way ANOVA. All right, and again, if we come down here and we look at the data, you can see all the reported p-values right there and their effect sizes. So just using this as a quick example, you should at least be getting a little bit more familiar with why they ran an ANOVA or what it means to run an ANOVA and all that kind of stuff. And if we want to, we can scroll all the way back up. And most studies won't do their data or won't present their data in this way. This is a little bit unconventional, but at least they gave you sort of a guide to what they did here. But there are our groups, and I guess the lines are the individual scores. So you kind of get used to that. But I do want to spend, I'm going to spend a quick second here. I'm going to talk over some other tests, but I wanted to use this as a quick example to see how the terminology you just went over is being used, being applied, and hopefully you can now have a better idea of what the heck they're looking for when you read these type of research articles. All right, bringing this all sort of back together. Like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned multiple times, there are tons of statistical analysis you can use. And luckily, through the power of the internet, you can easily search for some of these stuff. So if you're confused about why they use a certain statistical analysis, or if you are doing an article and you want to know which statistical analysis you should be using, the first thing is always make sure you have some sort of statistician on retainer. So always go to them because they're going to be your experts. But a simple website like this for the Institute for Digital Research and Education from UCLA will show you, again, got to know your different types of variables. So your independent variable versus your dependent variable, understanding those type of questions will really help you finding out what type of test you want to use. So here's your one sample t-test, your chi-square, your one-way ANOVA, chi-square. There's your p-t-test, paired t-test, repeated measures ANOVA, etc. So you can look at all these different types of statistical tests and get more comfortable with them. But again, it kind of comes back to understanding your different types of variables and what exactly you're looking for. All right, the last little bit we're going to talk about is how do you assess these randomized control trials. So you have all these great articles. How do you assess them? And we've been over these instruments before, and I had you last section look up these instruments and apply them. I'm not going to have you do that for this one because I think by now you have a pretty good idea of what goes into a good research article, what they should be presenting, what they should be giving you as the reader, as a consumer. But this is a really good website also. It's called Consort. And you can see right here, it stands for Consolidated Standards of Reporting Trials. This is a medical website more than anything. So you're going to see a lot of the articles that they'll use here have a medical basis. But the reason I like it is because it does talk a lot about what should go into a randomized trial. And the other thing I really like about this website is they basically are helping you understand how to apply it. And here's what I'm talking about. So if you go to Consort, statement.org, what we can do is we can go to the extensions, the download tab here. Oh, where did it go? Here it is, Consort 210. Go to the checklist. Okay, so under Consort 210, go to the checklist. And here, just like we have done before with all the other checklists I've talked about, is they actually go through here and they break it down. So this is 1A. It's a 25-item checklist. So 1A is your title, and it tells you what should go in the title. And an example, it gives you an example with a real citation, so you know what it should look like. All right, so then we go to 1B, which is your abstract. Well, here's what the abstract should be: a clear, transparent, sufficiently detailed abstract, blah, blah, blah. And it talks about all the descriptions that should go into it and examples, etc. You go to your introduction section: background, objectives, methods, design, participants, study settings, interventions, outcomes, etc. And so this is a nice way for you to look through your article and see if it matches the checklist that Consort comes up with. And if you want to do it this way, you can also do it this way. It gives you different types of styles. We're going to stay here with the Consort. I mean, if you just click on blinding, it talks about how you blind and what should be done and how it should be documented, etc. So again, there's 25 items when you look at it. And much like all the other checklists that I've kind of walked you through, it's not designed to be a pure assessment tool, but it's a really good guideline tool if you are writing a randomized control trial, you're writing these type of papers. It's a good guide for what you should be including in it. If you're just reading, it's a good guide for you to understand, did they include all the stuff they needed to include. So I'm not going to have you complete a consort for this paper coming up, but I do want you to at least kind of play around with it and just see all the wonderful things that are here. And the other cool thing is they actually give you real life examples. So if you go to a sample study, here's the paper, and don't show again. So it'll tell you right there, it labels it, that's your title, and you can see they actually put it for you. There's your abstract. So they color coded it, and they let you see where they put all this kind of stuff in the sample study. So I thought that was a really cool tool. And again, it kind of helps you look for what a good randomized controlled trial should look like. So those are relational studies. By now, you should have a really good idea of what goes into them, what they should be about, and hopefully you have a good idea how to read them and make the most out of them. So as you go through this next assignment, any questions, comments, concerns, etc., please let me know, and I will talk to you soon.